Hello, folks. Nice to see you. We hope you're doing well. This is the second installment of the Social Movement Engine discussion and conversation and presentation. We're hoping that if you have had the opportunity to see the other presentation, that you will feel free to question, Q&A, or comment prior to us beginning the slideshow. We want, if there's any clarifications from the original presentation, we want to ensure that they're part and parcel to this process and that they inform everything that we communicate from here on today. And as Amy said, Q&A will be ongoing wherever anyone has any questions. In addition to that, we will be shaving off the intro information that we presented in the prior presentation, and in hope, and if you have any questions in that regard, that's fine. We're just going to dive into anything that needs to be refreshed and then go directly into the social movement engine discussion and communication. Are there questions, comments, thoughts?
I always have questions, and I tell people I've got answers for questions you haven't heard of, but that's kind of a joke. But I always wonder what your total vision is for the next few years. What do you expect to be the benchmarks of accomplishment?
Specific to the WSS or humanity as a whole, or both?
Both.
Great question. As far as we're aware, this next 4 years or 5 years is going to be one of rapid technological and social transformation, likely transformational stress, conflict, misunderstanding, miscommunication that leads to resolution of a lot of misunderstandings of the past and hopefully healing on a global scale. That is a hoped for and envisioned potential for humanity. There is, of course, the flip side, which we must be willing to communicate the possibility of. And this is not scary stories or anything like that. This is just human beings have free will. They always will have free will. They must operate from free will. They learn via free will and experience. So if in the midst of our trials, tribulations, conflicts, misunderstandings, resolution of polarization, we miss a step somewhere, then there could be large-scale conflict of one sort or another. We're hoping that won't occur. We do perceive the likelihood of future, we're not saying in the next 5 years, future pandemics, things like that. Of course, the ongoing unfoldment of global warming. And all of these challenges are simply evolution. We see as simply evolutionary grist for the mill for humanity. The school book of the climate change process, whether you see it as climate change, global warming, or whatever, the school book that represents, the developmental school book that it is offering humanity, the answers that we create for that are going to inform us as to how to work together, collaborate, be more conscious, leave the past behind, focus on higher collective priorities and goals, and possibility unfolds from that, meaning recognized understandings that we're going to arrive at and achieve as individuals, countries, and the collective of the species. So whether it's a very trying time or an amazingly turbulent and adventurous time is kind of up to us. And what the results are of that, how many people are reduced in the quality of their suffering in the world, how many people are facilitated and educated into consciousness or greater capacity it's going to unfold via free will. Anything that we can do to be supportive of that, we want to do. The positive unfoldments, recognizing that there's, in a way, the negatives are just, again, if they must happen, they must happen. sometimes human beings are required to learn via the school of hard knocks. Within that global context, we're hoping that the WSS, which is not what we're focusing on today, we're focusing on only one of the 17 main components of it, the social movement engine. The WSS, we're hoping, can operate as a collective mechanism for facilitation of that transformational process and as a bucket to collect information, solutions, resources, capability, to hold space for collaborative, conscious collaborative efforts globally, and for fostering in as many of those positive manifestations of the transformation of the human species and our relationship to the planet as we can. And in that vein, the leading edge of that whole process, we're terming the social movement engine. Within the next 4 years, it is our hope and intention that it will manifest in its entirety. And we're going to go through all the details of it today. The first and second levels of it. There will be a third installment, which will describe the third level in detail. That said, within the context of that tumultuous environment, there's got to be a change shock absorption mechanism, a transformational shock absorption mechanism simultaneous to a facilitated healing and letting go of the past mechanism, as well as a mode and method and mechanism of introducing in very efficient, effective ways, new education, transformational understandings, helping people align in constructive ways for agreed upon positive, healthy, nurturing, nourishing goals. And so the facilitation component of the social movement engine, people who are trained specifically to be able to facilitate conscious collaboration in a variety of cultural or political or organizational venues, is being designed so that there will be a leading edge to facilitate healing, to facilitate the resolution and reconciliation of misunderstanding, to support the attainment of understanding on all participating sides within collaborative efforts and dynamics, and to provide options and opportunity for resolution of previously unreconciled or irreconcilable conflict. And the whole paradox of the whole situation is that, as far as we perceive it, is that the pressures that are mounting in our world are necessary pressures to arrive at the fusion, the integration, the weaving together of human species collaboration into a harmonious whole and process that is healthy, sustainable, doesn't damage the world, doesn't pollute near as much as we currently do, is arrived at more equitably and caringly through unconditional love, hopefully. Alignment with spirit is important for us in everything, and recognizing that just as the United States are understood, without the support of spirit, nothing's of benefits going to happen. So I don't know if that was an answer to your question.
Well, I think summing it all up, without struggle, there's no growth. And the end is already seen from the beginning. We know that this entire universe operates under divine law and divine intelligence. And whether or not the humanity understands that, they'll go kicking and screaming into the future. But it's like a river flows. You can go against the tide, or you could swim to get there a little quicker.
We absolutely agree with you, and we're hoping to go with the tide, that it be a peaceful, harmonious, graceful unfoldment. And anything we can do to be of service in that process is our intention, humbly. We're not suggesting us leading anything. We don't claim to know anything. We only want to operate as a mechanism of support and facilitation, and honoring the contributions, the transdisciplinary contributions of all world participants, whether they be from any walk of life or any nation, or any kind of person, any human being and soul, we're hoping to align with for the good of humanity. Are you folks okay jumping into the presentation?
Sounds good.
Wonderful. So, world system solutions, the social movement engine is what we're talking about today. If you folks are comfortable doing so, please do enter in a word or two or three that describes where you feel the world is at this time, where your personal suffering is, or where you feel other suffering is, and what your key or core or highest priority concerns are that you would like to discuss or see referenced in some way in this conversation. Understood, Esley. If we go to the next slide, and please add your comments as you do, folks. So this is a slide from our last presentation. We just want it to be reiterated to any new viewers or participants in this call. We only want to connect and share with you our intentions to serve humanity. We only intend to offer information. We have no expectation. We're not asking anything of you in this process other than to listen to what we communicate today. We are only operating as messengers and facilitators and a support mechanism or system. We hope that what we communicate today will benefit your lives in some way. If not, we apologize preemptively. We are building within the WSS a conscious community dedicated to serving the world. This community intends to meet you and all of humanity with unconditional love and compassion and a recognition that we're all equal and we're all children of God all the time. We always have been and always will be. And our process, overall process in the social movement engine is the development of a new global collaboration platform and a new form of conscious collaboration and a social network or interface to folks so that will produce solutions, aligned efforts, support systems, delivery systems for solutions in any venue of the world on large scale and small scale issues, problems, challenges, transformational dynamics, etc. And to do so in a way that will fundamentally transform our world, a new way of life in this world for humanity that doesn't lead to mass conflict, polarization, pollution, ongoing pandemic dynamics, or war. So we kindly request that you receive and interpret everything that we say today in this light and through this lens, if you choose to, and again, we hope it will be of benefit to you. Next slide. So this is a reiteration of the last presentation. Our global situation as we perceive it, we're not stating that this is the truth or fact. This is just our perceptions. We in our world are suffering and we're under pressure, and the pressure is increasing. The challenges are growing. They're mounting as time goes by. Our capacity to meet them must transcend whatever challenges we meet up with. Otherwise, the challenges will defeat us or will damage us or damage the planet or damage our capacity to work together in conscious, unconditionally loving, collaborative harmony. So there are global conflicts, dynamics of tribalism, mistrust, pre-existing cultural wounding that is in some cases hundreds or thousands of years old that has not been addressed, limiting mindsets and limited resources. And not that there are not lots of resources and more resources that are needed to achieve this transformation. It's just that they're being utilized and organized in ways that kind of keep them compartmentalized and unavailable to the benefit of the collective at this time, as far as we understand. And we're not saying that won't change in the near future. So Simultaneous to that, human beings' instinctive primal drive to voraciously feed on the natural world quite blindly. We are eating up the fish, we are eating up the mammals, and if we don't eat the various species of the world, we're killing off many of them ever faster year by year, either directly or indirectly, either directly as human beings and collectives, or via the domino effects of our things like climate change, global warming. So of course, COVID-19 is occurring. We are in the midst of a global recession that hopefully won't get worse, and COVID's getting likely to get worse in the near future. Rampant disinformation or misinformation, literal weaponization of information, partisan political warfare, corruption, blind and blinding competition, greed, profit motives, and resulting global pollution of all kinds, whether emotional global pollution, chemical global pollution, or just imbalances created in the natural environment. We have wonderful movements that have begun, the Black Lives Matter movement, the hashtag #MeToo movement, other movements are in progress. We don't feel that they're being adequately supported by society. And unfortunately, movements tend not to get the traction or have the empowerment or the resources or the mode of introduction that would bring about optimal, comprehensive, even global results. And that, again, is part of the social movement engine process, is to rebalance that equation and to empower social movements that are aligned with constructive global transformation and health, attainment of healthy, sustained life process for humanity on this planet. So transcendence of inequity, prejudice, separatist mindsets, bias of all kinds. Simultaneously, we understand that as a human species, even though we are all one all the time, in truth, we lack understanding of how to operate in harmonious unity. And we lack defined paths that have been received and aligned with and supported and resonated with by all participants. And we also don't have adequate support systems to co-create and manifest and continue upholding this attained unity. So that's, again, social movement engine is one of the mechanisms to achieve that. Traditional systems of leadership and governance and cultural transformation and for-profit competitive organizations and existing legal systems and economic systems and educational systems no longer optimally meet and serve human needs. And as time goes by, it's likely they're going to fall further and further behind. We're not hoping for that. That's just our perception in this moment. All of our current day-to-day and global problems and pain are, in at least in part, the result of traditional primal competitive drives expressing themselves within our environment and affecting our environment, and their associated decisions and actions, and have been in the past a necessary evolutionary developmental path for our species. There is no judgment of the history of humanity. We have no problem with human beings as they are and as they have been. We simply understand that it's time to transform for everyone's benefit and for the benefit of the planet. So we recognize that everything in our world is connected. World system solutions is, we understand the world is a system of systems, or at least can be looked upon in that way. And that because of that, we must all choose to change personally and globally and in concert in an orchestrated way with each other. Right now, the fragmentation of the nations and the cultures and the political systems and economic systems and for-profit corporations operating in competitive modes are interfering with that potential unified, aligned action and for the benefit of all. The WSS platform and transformational culture, which we are working to develop now, and which is moving along quite nicely, thank heaven, we hope will be at least a portion of the antidote to your pain and suffering and that of the world. Next slide. So this is a picture of a Roman aqueduct, a way of transporting transporting water hundreds of miles from the mountains in Italy to the city of Rome. It worked for a very long time, transporting water to the city of Rome. Paradoxically, when it was originally constructed, at least sections of it were lined with lead, leading to lead poisoning of the Roman population and symptoms such as mental retardation of Roman children. That was a lesson that they learned, and they chose to remove the lead after they understood its detrimental impact on decision-making, mental function, and physical systems. That said, today, we're rampantly polluting the world. We flush medicines and chemicals down toilets. We dump pollutants into the ocean and into the freshwater tables, and our children and our families then consume them. That's simply a fact of the times. So if we say that humanity, in terms of its tribal learning dynamics, doesn't tend to actually foundationally change all that much, even after 2,000 years, does that say that there is a foundational learning disability that must be directly, effectively, and in the near term addressed if we want to be able to transform and change as a human species, and to do so successfully and within the timeframes available, with the resources available, and with the current technologies that exist in the world now and in the near future? So why has this tendency not been reconciled and transcended long ago? Why did we not simply adapt technologically and not socially? Our social adaptation mechanisms have not kept pace with our technological adaptation mechanisms. So the evolution of human consciousness, we feel, is foundational, is a key element of bringing about global transformation that is successful, sustainable, healthy, and beneficial to all nations. Next slide. So this is a beautiful picture of a nautilus shell, and you can see the excellent, the elegant repetitive pattern working out from the center. The mollusk generates, as it grows, a new compartment for its body. And it grows and grows and grows, and the shell grows behind it. This is a metaphor for the human evolutionary system of the tribe, meaning that in the past, the tribe has simply gone from living in huts to villages to towns to cities to major nations and networks of cities. And that process of evolution and its manifestation in technology in our world, we see as a rather like a fractal repetitive pattern that's just occurring at a larger scale. It has not been fundamentally, comprehensively transformational for our species. And if we don't find some way to be more fundamentally, comprehensively transformational in our process, including transformation of societies and culture and nations and political systems, if we don't have a way forward to arrive at those sagacious or wise and discerning modes of life at scale, then it's likely we'll simply continue to operate in this particular fractalized or repetitive way. We can gracefully do that. We can gracefully let go of the tribal past, and we can design and co-create collaboratively and embrace a new and sustainable global life paradigm for humanity that is harmonious with our natural world. Next slide. This is what we are offering as a possible alternative. In this metaphor, this transformational process, the caterpillar lives its life feeding until it grows to a certain point, and then it creates a cocoon in which it fundamentally, we must backtrack. Within the caterpillar is something called, that has been referred to as that's interesting. Anybody? Imaginal cell, that's it. an imaginal cell grows in the caterpillar that has all of the DNA of what the butterfly is going to become. The imaginal cell is initially attacked by the immune system of the caterpillar, trying to destroy it, seeing it as a foreign body. And then the imaginal cell multiplies and multiplies, ultimately overcoming the prior internal system of resistance within the caterpillar to fundamental change. Then the caterpillar goes and creates its cocoon and literally turns into caterpillar liquid. It is that profound a transformational process. And it must be for a being so different as a caterpillar to turn into a butterfly. Humanity, we feel, we perceive, from what we understand, must go through a similar profound and absolutely comprehensive shift of way of life, thinking, decision-making, working together, and collaborating. So we are, yes, quite true. We're right now doing our very best to be the imaginal cells, or some of the many imaginal cells around the world that are formulating and they are now, and they're going to continue to come together and arrive at new understandings for facilitation of the transformation of the collective. We simply want to be a catalytic facilitation point and support mechanism for all of those efforts and all of those new and wonderful insights. And we are working towards that now. Are there questions or comments? Excellent. So what we feel some next steps for humanity are that we feel or perceive are required or needed in order to succeed and thrive as a species. A collaborative, developed, sustainable life process for humanity. We've listed that. A massive and equally shared collaboration infrastructure for all nations to work together in, to plan, to strategize, to coordinate, to logistically solve problems, and to deliver resources and technological solutions from, and to develop brand new solutions that have never been contemplated before in order to solve shared, complex, and large-scale global problems. Also, a new and standard and rapidly evolving system of non-competitive conscious collaboration that can be learned, can be taught, can be facilitated and supported, applied in any cultural venue globally to help people work together and understand in a very direct, clear, helpful way, and in a respectful way when, where, how, and why it's time for the world to transform. A support system for global transformation. That's the social movement engine, and in a larger extension, the whole WSS plan as it is currently envisioned to allow a sustainable, healthy global future that and mechanism or system that heals nations, wounded cultures, resolves disunity and cultural divides, transforms ignorance into understanding and capacity and empowered discernment, resolves inequity, inequality, misunderstandings, mistrust, and polarized division. And a delivery system specifically for large-scale transformational social technologies that are developed, meaning ways to help nations and cultures efficiently, catalytically change and transform and evolve just as fast as they can in order to meet our current and near-term future challenges. And of course, the resources and technologies to go with that, contributed by all participating nations and organizations in order that will remain stable during the coming era of perceived rapid change and transformation, and it will act as a shock absorber to that, and also a soothing balm, as well as a support system. The next item is a complete transformational facilitation process or ideology, not a religion, not a philosophy, a way of operating, a specific understood, shareable, educable mode and process and method of managing collective change internationally, nationally and internationally, in order to support humanity in learning how to peacefully and consciously collaborate, including all peoples, nations, cultures, genders, etc., rather than continuing to compete and battle and be at odds with each other for any reason. So this would operate as an organizing and practically functional loom, so to speak, to weave together humanity's resources and capabilities and expertise in a new way that serves better than the way we're currently operating. We're not denigrating, we're not condemning, we're not criticizing the current process of global economy or social dynamics or political dynamics. We're suggesting that they are not meeting the required standard that of fulfilling human species and global ecosystem needs. Also, a system for stabilizing the global transformational process to ensure that it doesn't go awry, that there aren't reactive stresses within any culture or any nation to the transformational process that either tear it apart or motivate us to destroy each other, either as nations or as a collective, and that we foundationally benefit that process and sustain it consistently. The SME and the WSS and all affiliated organizations. The WSS and the SME are not the antidote or solution to everything in the world. We're not claiming to be. We're not imagining that to be the case. We simply want to support the process. Next slide. The global transformational shift. We have computers, we have an internet, and lots of satellites, and we have artificial intelligence in its current budding form. We have smartphones, and we're going to have lots and lots of new future technologies, including genetics. We're just listing it because it can have such a profound influence on the human species. That is one facet of our current situation. Blended with that are these other two. We have the currently evolving process and cadence and dynamics of the traditional tribalized systems of development and governance, which we see in action with all their challenges today in the United States and in other countries, current political systems, judicial, educational, economic, etc. And we honor all of them. And we also want to say that the will of the people of our nation and every nation must be honored and must be brought online in a well-organized, refined, efficient, effective way in our vision in social aligned social movements within the social movement engine dynamic, so that people can work together as collectives that enjoy and want to work together. And so that's that second bubble on the bottom right is kind of where things are in this moment. The bubble or the box on the left at the bottom is the social movement engine, social and cultural technologies, and delivery systems and support systems and implementation infrastructures. So this is an envisioned and planned, and it's being designed in this moment, a new system and process of global transformation and evolution of consciousness and facilitation of that evolution of consciousness. When you put all three of these together, you can design with love, of course, and spirit and wisdom and compassion and collaboration and the possibilities of the human heart and mind. If you put them all together, you have the necessary ingredients for a transformational mix and antidote to our situation that can support the global transformational shift. Next slide. Do we have any questions so far?
Hey, John, taking in all this information and internalizing it, I just feel a lot of pressure to do my part the best I can. And I was wondering if you would have any suggestions about mitigating that Because it seems to be a constantly expanding awareness of the global situation in all its facets.
Well, that's a great question, because as people, if we imagine just a metaphor, if you had a flashlight with one of these adjustable flashlights, you turn the dial and it makes the beam broader so you see more with it. Right now, people are learning more and more and more, faster and faster and faster, whether it's via internet or television or books or whatever. So the more we learn and the more we understand and the more aware we become of the global dynamic, where it is now, where it might go in the future, and or the possibilities that are available to us, as well as the potential downfalls. And we also learn about our personal self-sovereign empowerment, the capacity of us as individuals and collectives to change, to move the needle on global change, to steer the Titanic away from the iceberg well before it gets anywhere near it. The more we recognize that as a possibility, due to the human process, we're all human, we all have biological chemistry that reacts with stress, fear, worry, anxiety, projection. Those dynamics are endemic, and if they just get dialed up, we get rendered less functional rather than more functional. And it makes it more difficult to become conscious, simultaneous to driving us to wanting to be more conscious and to understand and know more and have more positive effect in the world. So one is working in alignment with people that share your understandings, because human beings are tribal creatures. They always have been. We suggest transcending tribe. Simultaneously, we suggest that if you feel alone in the world and you feel that you're not, we're not saying you feel that you're the only person who understands this. We're saying anybody that does understand much of this is likely going to feel stress. So community support, conscious community. One. Two, lots of prayer, meditation, mindfulness meditation, perhaps. There are, and I'm not plugging books here. They're listed at the end of the slideshow. I'm just answering your question in this moment. For perspective on the big picture and ways to approach it with some degree of equanimity or balance or harmony, there's a book called A World Without Fear, written by some guy named John Jones. And there's a book called Enter the Era of Empowerment, Self-Sovereignty in a Time of I don't recall the second title. Sorry, it's just managing yourself in a self-sovereign way during these times of complexification. In any case, those are two resources. In addition, of course, we've got access to Amazon. How many different sources are there for stress management, for attaining understanding, self-empowered understanding in the world of who you can be, how you can affect the world in constructive, positive, excellent, catalytic ways. Paradoxically, we would also suggest self-forgiveness for everybody that becomes more aware, because if we blame ourselves or blame other people, and we suggest forgiveness of all others all the time. So meeting them with unconditional love, meeting ourselves with unconditional love, because if in these challenging times, if we can't meet that standard, if we can't focus on that as a star to follow or a core goal and alignment with spirit in the process to guide us through all of this, to be our compass and our map and our flashlight, if we don't do that, then we're likely, some of us, to descend into fear, anxiety, stress, negative emotions, polarization, judgmentalness, blame, and even in some cases, verbal violence or physical violence, which of course we would suggest is not necessary, and people have free will. We can't stop that from happening. Did we answer your question?
Yes, thank you, John.
You're quite welcome. Other questions? This whole situation is nobody's fault. It's important to let go of any any misapprehension of there being a bad guy or bad girl or bad country or bad people or bad historical dynamic in this situation. If we can let go of history, if we can just release it and say what happened in the past, it doesn't matter whether it was thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago, 50 years ago, 10 years ago, or yesterday, it doesn't matter. If we can let it go, then we become empowered optimally in this present moment to do something that's constructive, even if it's just say a prayer, hold space of consciousness for someone, think up a good idea or pass along an idea or help out somebody that's either stressed in this current time, doesn't have food due to COVID or doesn't have a job, or is falling through the cracks of our current process in any way. Service in those ways. We would suggest that service is one of the very best ways to manage stress, because you know you're doing something that matters and you know why. So this slide is we're now jumping into the social movement engine description overview, and we're going to be describing the foundation level of it, the bottom of this slide, level 1, very briefly, just to say that this slide, or this level of this slide, is designed specifically to allow inputs of information, ideas, concepts, concerns, statements of how any individual or group or organization wants the world to unfold in the future and why, if they choose to state so. So it's kind of a vote collection system. It's not the traditional voting for a particular issue. It's voting for where do you want the world to go? What kind of world do you want your children and your future generations to live in? What kind of natural world is important to you and why? What kind of changes do you want to see occur in the world? And any expert, subject matter expert or organization, not-for-profit, that's doing good work in the world, and there are many, and they're doing great things, and we respect them and laud them. We're hoping to be the mechanism that brings them together in an orchestrated way via this social movement engine process in order to enhance and catalyze and increase efficiencies, reduce waste, maximize empowered capacity to shift change and help the world be a more healthy, harmonious, loving, kind, caring place. And this bottom level layer would be the initial collection point for that. All of the information that would be input to this would have the option of being anonymized by the person, group, or organization or nation that is presenting it. Meaning that if this system were an app on a cell phone, this level of it, and someone was in a country that was oppressed and they wanted to say what was going on the ground, so to speak, and they had concerns over dissatisfaction with their telling the truth, their truth of the current situation, that they would have the option of not having that information tracked back to them or being punished for having spoken their truth. Everybody's got a different perspective. The old story of the 4 blind men and the elephant, all seeing the elephant as a completely different kind of animal based upon what part of it they were feeling. We recognize that truth. Nobody understands all of the world. Every human introduction of information into this system would be a piece in the puzzle that we would put together to get a big picture of what's really happening in the world. When, where, how, and why it's happening, when, where, how, and why, we can then strategize collectively, collaboratively to resolve the discontinuities, the inequalities, the conflicts, the misunderstandings, the unresolved wounding, and ensure that resources and technologies and solutions get delivered in as efficacious and direct and timely a manner as is feasibly possible, and to do that better and better and better forever. So the second level of this model is the strategy and solutions creation level. There are two parts to it. The first is a group of technologists that feed the information that is derived from all these inputs into an artificial intelligent engine. And that information is parsed and organized, and information and statistics are derived from that. And that's a massive referential database of what's going on in the world and where are the problems that will then feed the second portion of this level 2, which is that information will be given to all these folks on the right side there, the universities, the think tanks, research institutions, philanthropists, not-for-profit organizations, subject matter experts, all global change agents and planners and governments equally, without filter, without manipulation, without spin, without agenda, equally all the time. And that this will be kind of a radiating signal out to the world of clean, clear information of what's happening, when, where, how, and why it's happening. And then people can work together from the same sheet of music, so to speak, or the same page to say, well, that's what's happening. That's why it's happening. That's why it's important for us to work together to solve these specific problems in this timeline, in this way, with these resources. That's why it's necessary for us to collaborate. That's why it's necessary for us to prioritize problem and challenge resolution above competition, above greed, above corruption, above ignorance, above unresolved hatred or emotional wounding in individuals or in collectives and cultures or nations. And then that information, once the strategies and solutions are arrived at, and this level is what we're going to discuss in depth today, the second level, this is our focus. This level is an online workspace where teams and groups and nations can work together and will have access to whatever information, whatever technologies, whatever statistics, whatever research institutions and think tank information and university information and satellite information, whatever is necessary to literally achieve understanding. And from that understanding to work together effectively and to understand far better when, where, how, and why it's necessary to operate in very organized ways. And to then have the aha moment of, why did we put lead in the aqueducts and why are we still polluting the oceans and the freshwater tables? And for them to be able to develop collective aligned agreements that are adhered to, because this will be blockchain technology, meaning that this information will be indelible. It will not be able to be spun, manipulated, or adjusted in any way. That's our current understanding of blockchain's capacities. We're not saying that there is no system in the world that cannot be hacked. We're not saying that there's no system in the world that cannot be gamed. We are suggesting that the security for this system would be of the utmost absolute importance. And we're also suggesting that data integrity be absolutely necessary as a highest first priority too. So that if you're working with accurate information, the best, clearest, non-spun, non-special interestified information, that people are going to be able to arrive at better decisions simply because their information is better and they're working from the same information or data set. So that's the second portion of the level 2, and then that will feed level 3. Level 3 is a strategy development level, meaning, implementation level. The strategies are developed at level 2. The implementation of the strategies and the solutions occur at level 3. The delivery of the technologies, the delivery of the project plans, the delivery of the resources, the delivery of the human effort, and the ongoing monitoring of all of those projects this will be a central clearinghouse or central point of connection and collaboration and communication and organization. that will allow world leaders, governments, collaborating corporations, implementers of all kinds, both local and international, project managers, and WSS facilitators, meaning people who have been trained in helping teams of teams collaborate consciously via non-judgmental, non-blaming dynamics, without fear, without manipulation, and diminishment of ego in the process, whether it be individual ego, cultural ego, organizational ego, national ego. We're not suggesting that you can expunge the ego, the human ego process from this whole dynamic. We are suggesting that there are many things we can do to mitigate its detrimental influences and to harmonize human interaction, and that we get the soft skills. This is not a technology model that you're looking at here. This is a human, heartfelt process of love and delivering with love whatever support human beings need wherever they are in the world, and recognizing their pain, feeling their pain, serving them as absolutely optimally as it is feasibly possible to do in a timely manner, and to do so with fairness and equity and integrity, and consciously, not reactively, not out of anger, not out of some. This is the antidote to trying to get everyone to work together against a common enemy. We don't have to have a common enemy in order to work together. We can operate out of recognized necessity, out of love for one another, out of caring for our planet and for our future generations and our children in this present moment, if we choose to. It is a choice that will be available and will be more poignantly highlighted and illuminated in the near term for all of humanity, ever more clearly. The question is, how long will it take us to consciously respond? And will we consciously respond, or will we simply react, putting out fires after they're started, rather than ensuring that the land is healthy and has lots of fresh water? The last thing I will say about this slide is that the bottom, it says voter steerage, meaning the introduction of the will of the people, the person in the street, the human experience will be what drives every bit of this. This will not be some top-down political system. It will not be the wealthy and the powerful defining the future of humanity. It will be steered by the experience and the will and the understanding and the emotion and the heartfelt process of day-to-day people, the person in the street, and therefore making it available to everybody without exception. There are nations that might not be open to it. We get that. It's not a perfect situation. And in the future, if you have 100 nations or 150 nations that all have participants, does it make sense that other nations might choose to become participative if they see beneficial results as the good fruit that is born from this effort? Now, we've said a lot of things, and we hope it's useful things. Might we ask for any questions or comments before we go into the nitty-gritty of level 2?
I was wondering when you will start with this process of input from various sources.
Our hoped for timeline will be the middle of 2022.
Seems quite distant. It seems like you can get caught up in details and lose sight of the goal.
Well, it is possible. We could, depending upon, our current strategy is based upon our current technological resources. It's quite feasible to create level 1 within the next 6 months and implement it as a complete mechanism, meaning all the AI is off the shelf. We've already verified that. Everything is available. If we have the resources, we can implement level 1 and the first segment of level 2, meaning the statistics engine, and we're going to go into the details of that in a moment. All of its capacities can be affected if we have the funding within 6 months. Now, there's one other facet of this, which is an ongoing developmental process. The facilitators, which are listed in the second level, the WSS facilitators, and they're also listed in the third level, they are necessary components of this, meaning there must be people who understand all the dimensions of human conflict, whether it be social or individual, and misunderstandings and problems. And we're building that. We're about to add 4 new teams to our team of teams: an educational team, an education and research, an organizational development, and a communications team. And these new teams are going to round out our current capacities. We're also adding an administrative team. So there are functional realities, and it's important that best metaphor I have in the moment, I apologize for its simplicity. If you're going to build a truck to carry a very heavy load, it's very important to ensure that the foundation mechanism will carry the load. We don't want to go off half-cocked. We don't want to go into this and become overwhelmed because we didn't pre-plan it and not pre-build and pre-test adequately, and we did not quality assure in every area of key important functionality. If we can achieve that in 6 months and have level 1 and half of level 2 implemented, that's fantastic. I hope it's understandable that if you're talking about creating an environment in which any organization in the world can go into a collaborative space and have access to innumerable data sources in regimented, standardized ways, and work together in there with ongoing facilitation, that is a technological attainment that we have not as a species arrived at yet. At least not, perhaps in government facilities, the military, something like that. That said, this is not a common technology and not a common tendency in human beings to work together collaboratively. We're not saying that there aren't team workspaces. A collaborative workspace of conscious collaborative facilitators and people who are focused on just attaining wise, positive goals at this scale, for problems of this scale, it doesn't exist as far as I'm aware anywhere on the planet. And I could be wrong, and I'm not claiming to know that to be true. So if that takes a year and a half to get there, and it works, and we can also have level 3 complete in that time frame, I think that's quite an achievement. And absolutely, I also understand that the needs of the world are so vital, are so pressing, that if and it's our prayer that it would be so, if we can engage philanthropists, not-for-profits, research institutions, government institutions in this process, it could go much, much faster.
Who do you have right now that's willing to approach the Gates Foundation and Berkshire Hathaway?
We're aware of those, and those are possibilities. A person that was in our prior, I believe, in our prior social movement engine presentation, has worked for the Gates Foundation in China. Excellent person, and so we have windows of visibility on those options, and we're absolutely looking at them. And paradoxically, we're talking about taking organizational environments, any for-profit or not-for-profit organization and nation has its built-in culture, its built-in organizational process, its set of beliefs, its dynamics of effecting goals. And we're talking about asking them to change them. We're asking them to climb into the cocoon and turn into a liquid and work with us.
Well, creation starts with the communication. Now, we don't know what will happen until you start with a positive attitude.
Well, of course, and that's why we're having this conversation right here today, and we're creating this presentation so that this presentation can be distributed to anybody. We absolutely have a positive attitude, and we also don't have a Pollyanna vantage point on the situation. We are pragmatists, and we're also optimists, and we love everyone, and we're putting our shoulder to the wheel on this. This is our lives, literally. This is my life. I'm putting everything that I have into this personally, and I will absolutely continue to do so. And there are other folks that are equally aligned. So we are, as soon as we have our act together, as soon as we can communicate, and we are developing funding communications right now, as soon as we can intelligently communicate this to the powers that be, to the organizations that are out there in a way that is not daunting, is not too complex, is not too stressful in terms of change management shock, we're going to be moving, and that is going to be happening likely. We're going to incorporate in the 20th of January next year, and we're going to immediately be seeking funding and support and collaborative connections. So that's 1 month away. And I know we're in dog years right now, so that might seem like years. And we're moving just as fast as we possibly can. And we appreciate your motivation and your intentions and your recognition of the profundity of our current moment of need as a species and a natural world. And we're hoping that all of us, with our collective energies aligned in very refined and caring, conscious ways, we'll all put our shoulders to the wheel together and recognize the necessity of doing so, and reap the results of having made such a wise and discerning and conscious choice, and out of unconditional love for self and other and world. So we appreciate what you're saying, absolutely, and we are, every day we're looking for ways to accelerate this process. We truly are. So thank you. Other questions? Very good. So what we've got in level 1, what we've been working to develop, is a social movement engine support team. Or I apologize. The level 1 will have a social movement support team, and we are working to develop that right now. That will include project managers, facilitators, administrative support, communications coordination, management and interfaces to all sorts of social software systems, Facebook, Twitter, etc., and facilitator generated educational materials. And that will then feed the core situational database, the AI database. This team, the level 1 team, will have access to all required data from participants in all social movements that choose to be affiliated with this mechanism of the SME, or the social movement engine, in any affiliated nation or culture. The facilitation team will develop and manage educational data that is then distributed from the social movement engine in response to the folks' comments, questions, ideas, thoughts, or concerns in any nation, in order to help them reflectively understand their own situation and empower them. And this level will generate educational materials. I'm going to zip through this because we want to ensure we have enough time for level 2. This applies the cultural transformation engine capacities, this level. And even negative information, even judgmental or hateful comments by people, which are simply a part of the human life process. We have no judgment of them. Even those will be utilized as grist for the mill to understand people's pain, to recognize that people are in pain, and they may be very angry about things, or judgmental, or even hating. And that's not a problem. That's part of the human process. Next slide. So the social movement engine level 1 has access to all of these items on the right in the orange bubbles: research institutions, think tanks, etc. And of course, the social movement engine facilitators. They will be processing, you can see the blue bubble in the middle, they'll be processing and integrating grassroots information, facilitating grassroots education, communication, coordination, collaboration, facilitation, building motivation, helping nurture, establish and nurture new social movements that are constructive and positive, and also to align and support existing social movements that are in need of support or organization or technology or funding or education or connecting via the network that will connect with the social movement engine. On the left side, we have all sorts of potential databases, such as climate change information and modeling for climate change solution creation. Existing prior solutions and projects, the whole history of all the projects that the social movement engine has previously worked on, so that this whole system will learn constantly and evolve quite rapidly. So we recognize that if we want to meet our challenges in the world, we must learn faster, better, quicker, and more catalytically and more comprehensively as an organization and as a species and as nations and cultures. There'll be a database of cultural dynamics and transformation cultural transformation modeling and an engine specifically to facilitate that transformation in healthy, caring, non-judgmental, constructive ways. There will be a communications and management engine that is tailored to specific venues globally. There will be intra and intergovernmental working profiles that will allow databases of those profiles that will allow governments to understand each other better, work together, understand their protocols, their procedures, their policies, their values, their current moment of process. There will be a logistics modeling engine so that we can specifically and in an ever more efficacious way deliver solutions, technologies, information, education, support, resources of any kind, anywhere in the world in a timely manner. There will be a statistics and data science engine, meaning that any and all information that is contributed to this mechanism will make the best understandings from that information we possibly can with the latest technologies in order to support people as optimally as is feasibly possible. There's a term transdisciplinary, which means basically comprehensive integration of all the different disciplines of education in the world and technology, whether it be sociology or psychology or psychiatry or education or information systems or economics, blending those schools of thought into a cohesive, harmonious whole that can then, meaning that's the liquid, so to speak, of the caterpillar, that can then be transformed into a working system that functions way better than where we're at right now. And the last item in that list is facilitators and facilitator information databases, so that if there is a support intervention process between two nations to facilitate negotiation or to facilitate reconciliation or healing between them or between any organization and another organization or any culture and any other culture, there will be a system and there will be staff, there will be capacity and resources available to the people who are in that need. And they will be delivered logistically, effectively, and efficiently, staffed for, trained for, and effectively deployable in the near term. So I hope from this list on the left that it's recognized this is a massive effort. It is a massive goal to be achieved. It is a moonshot, so to speak, for our species, or it's more than that. And we get that. We're not daunted by that. We recognize the profundity of the need. We recognize that there is that there must be some way defined, some path defined for humanity, and that this is one option that could be created and would allow all levels of all societies to work together in synchronized, orchestrated union, if they so choose, and efficiently and effectively. Next slide. So this is level 2, part A, meaning the first part, which is the transdisciplinary information database, along with the experts that manage it. This environment supports grounded learning and evolution of consciousness, information preparation, and it's a single integrated point of view for all the collected data for strategizing and coordinated actions, and it operates as an integrative communications hub in those regards. Along with the facilitators, these teams, there would be more than one, define and develop a suite of solutions, strategies, models, and prototyping tools that would then be utilized by the solutions and strategy development teams from various nations and organizations. This level of the organization refines the cultural modeling engine's capacities, because transformation, healthy, harmonious, peaceful transformation of culture is foundational to global transformation. If that's not realized and accepted and addressed from the get-go, we might as well not. I mean, everything else is kind of veneer. Everything else is cosmetic. If we can't develop transformational technologies for societies, then we'll just continue on the same path until something redirects us in a way that we might not like. So this team interacts with all the affiliated data, knowledge, technology, and solutions, producing entities to evolve the entirety of the social movement engine constantly. Data integration and analysis goes on here. It's got an AI database, artificially intelligent database, which generates literally research papers that right now that technology exists. Artificially intelligent database engines can write research papers from databases similar to the level of quality that a writer would produce. Sorry, that's at least at a journalist level, from what I understand. So that kind of reflective feedback system, collecting the data, sending it into the artificially intelligent database, having it spit out research that is integrative and transdisciplinary, is vital to this level of the organizational model. We recognize this is complex. We recognize there's a lot of technology, and simultaneously it will all be balanced with heart and soul, no matter what. That is our promise, that is our intention, that is our goal, and that will be built in and baked in and is right now. So this data will be freely shared, transparently shared with anybody, and will support aligned, functionally optimized collaboration and non-competitive evolution of consciousness of the species and all affiliates processes. This kind of model and process allows for synchronized participation of all participants globally in an orchestrated way with the social movement engine process, and it generates a collective learning dynamic, and from that, a shift in potential shift in global consciousness. Unless we have that organized, orchestrated education to disperse in a synchronized way, people can't be on the same page. They go into judgment dynamics and blame dynamics and fear and projection and mistrust dynamics, because in effect, they're operating from a different data set or different information base, or conflicted, polarized, non-integrated information from special interests, for example. Next slide. So this is the model, level 2 model, same information on the left, same information on the right. We're simply suggesting that in the middle here, that there will be researchers, integrator researchers, that will be a multi-team process, and that the they will be constructing a new way to store and work with data that's never even been contemplated as being necessary or useful by humanity in the past. And that there will be an information flow from left to right and right to left, meaning all the folks from the right side bubbles are going to be sending in their information into the database. All the databases on the left are going to be integrated, all the transdisciplinary information, so they can provide a feedback loop to all the organizations on the right. So that mechanism, that reflective, constant evolutionary paradigm, is absolutely necessary if we want to have the world be able to operate kind of like all on the same Greenwich Mean Time clock of global transformation and evolution and coordinated activity in a way that results in positive, beneficial results for the collective, for all of humanity in equitable ways. Next
May I
slide.
ask a question?
Of course.
Would this be a type of system where, say, a major country passed a law that said that abortion is illegal, and then like a month later we could see some of the implications of that decision?
As long as there were people who wanted to communicate that, absolutely, via their free will process. This would not be trying to report on anybody or blame any country or any nation or any culture or any person. That's not what this is about. It's very much about simply providing opportunity for wise decision-making and collective action taking. Did we answer your question?
Yes, and so, like, for example, if a tax law was passed that taxed the wealthy and then gave benefits to lower income families, would this be able to gather feedback from those lower income families in order to help evaluate the success of that policy?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then would that information be then distributed to individuals so that they could vote in informed ways?
Absolutely. And it would be made transparently available to anyone, anywhere that had the technology to log on to this system.
And that's wonderful. And would there be a process to help people who might log on to it and say, "Oh, this WSS thing, it's fake news"?
Well, absolutely. Now, let's be very clear if it's okay. Anybody can label or brand or claim anything to be anything. We can claim a mountain to be a molehill or a molehill to be a mountain. And so anybody has their free will right to interpret any system, any organization, any nation, or any individual in whatever way they choose. They've got the God-given free will right to do that. This system is being designed to be absolutely optimally transparent and trackable, meaning anybody who would want to would be able to track where the information came from, not if it was anonymized data, not where the information came from specifically to an individual. That said, they would be able to say that this information came in here, it was worked with in this way, it became part of decision making or statistics in this way, it generated this information for strategy development or decision making, and it informed this solution creation process, which was then implemented in this cultural venue, and it had this effect. So you see that as a cycle? This whole system cycles constantly, so it learns to derive the clearest, most integrous information possible from every source, and to then learn from the application of that current moment of understanding of human process, and to evolve the collective as a result, and also to help solve local problems or challenges or evolutionary challenges all along the way.
Yes, that's really, really wonderful. Thank you.
Quite welcome. Next slide. So this is the level 2 or part B, level 2 part B section of that middle layer of the original model. So there will be teams that develop solutions, technological solutions, logistical solutions, transformation of culture solutions, coordinative solutions, collaborative solutions, and put them in, and project plans, and put them into packaged solution, deployable solutions that will be handed off to level 3. These folks will be required to understand what's happening on the ground in a very practical, grounded way. In any location where a solution or a strategy is being applied, they'll be required to understand all of the players and stakeholders in each nation or each culture or each organization in order to design and negotiate solutions that people can actually receive, value, understand the necessity of, work with constructively and collaboratively. And this level will be a feedback to all of the people on the ground that put in their information of what they want to happen in the world, so to speak, meaning they'll be able to see, I voted for this, I wanted this to happen, and it was part of this strategy and this solution that was affected in this part of the world, and therefore it either helped solve a problem or it didn't do what I wanted, or I want it to be different, so I'm going to put in another vote, so to speak, into the system. And so this whole process is evolutionary and refining. The people on the ground, in the street, and all associated organizations will learn from the results of the implementations of solutions and strategies. And then this organizational model will evolve with their learning and their expectations, their desires, their goals, and their needs and necessities. So this team also collaborates with and supports and facilitates representatives from all affiliated entities, organizational, cultural, national, or individual, including universities, research institutions, and think tanks, to be able to consistently and consciously learn and work together in a hands-on, real, practical, nitty-gritty way, and as egolessly as is feasible, based on higher values that everyone can agree upon, such as a sustainable future for humanity. This is an online collaborative environment for global decision makers, subject matter experts, philanthropists, think tanks, etc. The United Nations, as wonderful as it is, and UNESCO, as wonderful as they are, don't operate in this way. That's not a criticism of them. It's a description. There are cracks, so to speak, that a lot of things fall through. This is designed to fill in all the cracks, or as many as they can. Those organizations would work with WSS facilitators in a single integrated collaborative space and process that is transcendent of competition, special interest, agenda, corruption, fear, greed, or nationalistic interest and tribal tendencies, or pre-existing limiting mindsets, to help them learn to learn in a new way, learn to cooperate and collaborate with each other in a new way, and work together constructively in a new way. This system operates as a coordinative, collaborative communications hub. It is a hub of hubs. It is an integration point for any and all kinds of information around the world that can turn into solutions and ease the pain and suffering of humanity. This level of the organization would script the strategic application of the cultural transformation engine capacities and the facilitators' capacities. It would script those strategic outputs in such a way as to be implementable, to help cultures change, to help nations change, to help organizations change, whether they're for-profit or not for-profit, to help all of them work together and to learn ever better by their introductions, by their teaching us via what they bring, to help everyone else learn to work better together. So we're not saying, again, we're not saying that we know all the answers. We're saying that when you bring everyone together in a harmonious space, they're going to bring all of their expertise. They're going to bring all of their knowledge. They're going to bring all of their understanding in such a way as to create a more wise approach to global solutions production. We're getting near to the end of the call. I'm going to zip through the rest of this. So there will be a complete team of WSS experts that supports collaborating remote entities, their learning processes, and helping them optimally utilize the social movement engine data and tools. There'll be a process of accessing accurate and constantly up-to-date transdisciplinary data from any source in the world. There will be participating entity representatives that will be working together to prototype strategies and solutions to find out what is possible for humanity to create in the future together, co-create. This system ensures efficient utilization of all of our precious resources from all contributors in highly refined and developed and effective strategies that are practical and grounded in nature. It's an environment of constant learning and evolution of collaborative dynamics. It's a developmental test lab for that. They're constantly evolving. It catalyzes participants' arrival at the generation of workable and sustainable solutions and strategies and project plans. And it allows for testing out many different prototyping strategies and solutions to say what's the best, and different approaches to say what really, really works and what doesn't. And lastly, it generates and delivers workable, practical, tested, and implementable strategies, plans, technologies, and hands them off to the level 3, which we described earlier, which is the implementation level. So that completes level 2 description. Questions, thoughts? We know we scheduled 90 minutes and we're sorry for going over here. I'm available, we're available to answer questions or have conversation now. This is our contact information if you would like to learn more about us, wssnow.org. And any questions or comments or thoughts you have, please, we want to hear from you. We are learning from you. We want to be receptive.
Well, we've gotten a lot of information, a lot of things we probably won't remember all the details, but I suppose we're looking for the next action step.
That's a great question. We are now in the midst of developing our orientation team, which is the out-facing interface to the collective of humanity. The orientation team is developing their skills and capacities in regard to organized communication with potential participants. We have, right now we have a set of teams of 7 or 8 teams that are focused on different disciplines or areas of focus: a spiritual team, a therapeutic team, an organizational consulting team, the social movement engine construction team, the transformational communications team, the media team, and and of course the orientation team. If I'm missing anyone in there, please forgive me, folks. So those teams are developing. They are not, anybody that is interested can be participative, can learn more at the website. If you would like to learn more, you can be put on our mailing list. If you'd like to contribute information or ideas or expertise, please do through those defined channels. We are building the team of teams now, meaning that we're looking for and requesting folks who would like to work with us and collaborate with us to do so, to contact us. We're also developing the funding strategy and deck and information so that we can deliver understanding of where we're headed, why we're headed there, what we need, and how people can help if they want to. And that information will likely be available in the middle of next month. That said, the process of creating new teams, we're open in that regard, meaning that if you folks want to be part of an existing team, talk to us. If you want to start your own team, talk with us. There is no limit to the number of teams that we can create that would collaborate with us. We are there to deliver information, understanding, educational materials. We've got lots of them that we put together over the last 17 weeks. We've weekly meetings in which we communicated as much information as we could about how people can consciously collaborate in a harmonious way and develop their teams. And that information has been recorded. We're currently working on developing it so that it can be presented to any new team participants so that they can expedite and accelerate their attainment of understanding, operational team capacity, consciousness, alignment with the WSS process, or just achieve in the world that which they recognize is of great importance to achieve. And so we're very open in that regard. We don't prescribe things aside from basic team tenets, mutual respect, keeping agreements within the teams, being receptive, caring, loving. Those are basic tenets, non-judgmental approach. And so for anybody who would want to operate in groups in service to humanity or the natural world, we would love to hear from you and request your participation. And we honor your capacities, your expertise, your knowledge, your wise, conscious, caring intentions. And anything we can do to expedite that development, please tell us. And we have lots of feedback mechanisms in the organizational process right now, and we're evolving them as we speak. And so your voices will be heard. We'll make sure that happens. Your contributions will be honored, and they will be part and parcel to the whole process. I don't know if I answered your question. I apologize for speaking so quickly. I'm trying to respect everyone's time, and I'm trying to offer as much information as we can, because we are here to serve, and we want to serve the best way we possibly can.
Well, I believe that communication is really the thing. You know, I'm familiar with and worked with many esoteric and spiritual groups for the last umpteen decades, and I think getting together and producing a worldwide movement is really important.
Thank you, and totally agreed. And that is our hope and intention. And it's a natural unfoldment. It's a necessary unfoldment. How smoothly it goes is, again, up to humanity. Its birth pangs are a normal process of any transformational effort. We're hoping to minimize those. The birth of consciousness of the next level of consciousness of our species, if we can help that in any way.
We have friends in high places, so we have to realize that and have courage.
Absolutely. This must be gone about fearlessly, with courage, with high intention, with alignment with spirit, alignment with our heart's deepest intentions, and unconditional love. Those are basic tenets of our process, and we are doing everything we can to ensure that that remains so constantly.
John, if you can hear me, I'm very happy to be here on the call and to see what you've been up to. I've been wondering, and I just had a couple comments. Finding ways to reach people, I think is important, and because a lot of folks aren't going to read, and this is a sort of complex thing. It's wonderful. I understand the value. That said, many people can benefit from, grassroots level change without knowing the complexity of everything else that's going on. The video of the Taproot I thought was amazing. And that kind of artistic expression, I think, is really helpful to reach people with a powerful, energetically deep, profound, healing message. And some of the sort of signature, simple spiritual technologies that you have developed and maybe are developing more, like the forgive and forget points and some of the releasing techniques, I think are helpful also for people individually to do this work of transforming the collective. So I just wanted to share those ideas with the group.
Thank you, Esley. We completely agree. We are creating literally more videos as we speak, and we have now many, many hours of recordings of educational video that we produced on our Friday meetings that we can synthesize into distilled educational sub-videos. All of the information that is collected in terms of people's individual developmental dynamics, such as meditation or such as prayer, or depending upon one's religious or spiritual persuasions, mantra work, or any psychological mechanism or process or that would facilitate people in their healing will be available to people via this engine too. So the grassroots people will have access to support information for free. I don't know if I mentioned that. All of this is not for profit, for free. All we're interested in is service to humanity, and no funding mechanism from any source will define the cadence, process, or dynamics of this in any special interest sort of way. So every service to all levels of humanity in an equal way, as best we can understand from them what their personal or collective needs are, will drive the evolution of this system. So we are in complete agreement with your statements. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Questions, comments, thoughts? Well, if we then appreciate your time, your participation, your consideration, your caring, your loving and positive intentions, for having been patient with us through this process and this communication. We recognize the complexity, we recognize the challenge, we recognize the possibility that humanity has, we recognize its importance, and we recognize your contribution of these moments in this day, which is challenging in the midst of COVID and challenging in the midst of the world situation. So thank you for your heartfelt intentions and approach, and for being here today. And God bless you all. And we hope you have a fantastic day and happy holidays. And thank you.
Thank you, John. See everybody later.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Very welcome.
Thank you, John.
God bless, folks. You're welcome.